What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. We're going to do a Corran walkthrough today, and I have appropriately put on my Sons of Corellia t-shirt for that because I'm extra in that fashion. So this is going to be a demo, but I also want to talk about the chassis design that went into this. It's a little bit of an intricate chassis with some greebie work. And I also want to go over some of the weathering that I did on this particular hilt. I do have some thoughts on the hilt as well. So we'll just do a quick demo and we'll be on our way, right? It's never the same format every time. I'm trying to make things different, but there's just no way to do that. So yeah, so this is a Solos hold Corran horn. Now I have heard, I feel like I've gotten away from doing Corrans and speeder bike hilts. I have. I've just put a lot of my time and effort into doing commissions for people. And as far as like personal builds go, I'm doing a run of scraps currently, and I did a personal star killer for myself. So I just haven't really had the bandwidth or the time to do any new Corrans. And I've heard about the Solos Corran horn over the years, and I've never understood the hype, obviously, until now. To my own detriment, I passed judgment on the hilt before I even put hands on it. Not like I didn't have any bad thoughts about the hilt. I was just like, nah, yeah, I guess it's a speeder hilt. It's a speeder bike inspired hilt. But as soon as I held this hilt, I knew that I needed to have one. So maybe one day I'll have one in my collection. Yeah, this hilt is rad. I love it. I love it's almost like when I first pulled it out of the box, I thought that it was small. But once you hold this, it literally feels like you're holding, it feels like a bike grip. It really feels like a motorcycle grip. It feels like what a speeder bike grip would feel like. And I really like it. So, I'm fortunate, doing installs for people is fun. Obviously, I enjoy installing lightsabers, but what I really, really love taking advantage of is the fact that I get to put my hands on some stuff that I wouldn't otherwise, put my hands on. So I've had a chance to work on some really, really unique lightsabers, and I'm just happy that the client chose me to install this because I've always wanted to actually inspect and hold the Solos Hold Corran horn, and it's a fantastic hilt. I absolutely love it. So without further ado, we're going to talk about the chassis first, and then we'll talk about the weathering that went into the hilt, and then we will do a demo with a blade, and we'll be on our way, right? So we're going to come into Fusion. This is the chassis that I designed for this particular install. Did some, my typical greebie work around the outside of the chassis itself. The client did have some prerequisites, right? So the client definitely wanted greeblies and some chassis detail. They also wanted some onboard Neopixels. So this is a short-ish chassis. It's not the smallest chassis I've ever done. So it was hard finding room to put a Neopixel strip or a Neopixel ring. And what I ended up doing was putting a ring around the top of the chassis where the 6-rail PCB is. And this is a lens that I designed in Fusion as well and printed that off in translucent resin. So that kind of slides over the chassis to protect the Neopixel ring, right? Neopixel ring sits in this trench. So plenty of room for a 28mm speaker. We've got our Proffie board here. Proffie board sits in this. It's kind of like a tray. So what I've been doing with a lot of my builds lately is actually making a channel for the Proffie board to kind of slide into to help secure it, rather than actually doing a bead of E6000 or putting an adhesive there or wrapping it with electrical tape. So it sits in this tray, and if you ever need to get, I mean, you can get at it when it's in there, no problem. If you've got a 90-degree connector, if you don't, you can just slide the Proffie board out and tilt it up if you need to. Making our way up. So on the inside of the hilt, this is like a chassis or a PCB holder that I created to hold the pin side PCB of that 6-rail PCB. That is secured inside of the hilt, and it lives in there. And making our way up in the emitter, I made a custom PCB emitter holder, and I printed that in translucent resin as well. And that also lives in the emitter section of the hilt. It is held in place with a set screw. So if it needs to be troubleshot or anything like that in the future, it can be removed and worked on that way, right? Nice and simple. So let's talk about this hilt. So here it is. I mean, it's this thing. It's perfect. It's perfect. I thought that it would be too small. It's not. It feels so good. Looks rad. Anyway, so enough gushing about this hilt. Let's start from the bottom. So I did weather this hilt myself. The client did request some light weathering. I talk about this in previous videos. What I like to do when something is painted or anodized black, the first thing that you want to do is go over the edges. Well, what I do is I go over the edges with some fine grit sandpaper just to knock back those edges, make it look a little worn. I did put some scratches in this as well. And I did do a small pass of burnt sienna wash to make it look a little bit rusty. I did knock back some of that black anodization around the emitter as well to make it look a little more worn and used. But pretty straightforward. I mean, I don't know much about what design went into this hilt. I have heard that the people from Solos Hold actually took some measurements from an on-screen prop to make this shroud at the bottom here. We've got a faux like red button at the bottom. This is all in aluminum. Just a really, really nice hilt. I'm pretty sure this is aircraft aluminum, so it's thin-walled, but it's very, very strong. Just a great hilt. Great hilt. Plenty of room in here for, a 28mm speaker. And that also gave me plenty of room to design a chassis with greeblies, right? So let's talk about how to use it. Okay, so to get at the inside of the hilt, you want to unscrew your pommel. Here is the chassis. So I did do a pass of, I think it was pewter buff and rub on this, just to bring out some of the details in those greeblies. 28mm speaker. We've got spring side negative, and our Proffie board sits at the top. Here's that Neopixel ring. We'll get a good look at that right now, actually. So to use the hilt, spring side, as I said, is your negative. So you want to take the flat part of your battery, rest it in the tray, turn it on, and there's that Neopixel ring. Chassis works fine outside of the hilt. To put it in the hilt, it's very simple. There's no wrong way to slide it in. You just want to drop it into the hilt and screw your pommel on. You want to screw this pommel until it stops. Okay, don't over tighten it. That pommel just helps to push that chassis up into those PCB pins up here, and then you're ready to go. Right? So I did create. Sorry, let's come down to the bottom here. So I did create a custom blade plug for this build. I've mentioned this in the past. Blade plugs are just kind of inspiration that happens. I don't always do them for every commission that I do, but I feel like this Corran needed a blade plug. It's just a rad hilt, man. So let's put a blade in it. So up top here, there is a set screw. This is an M3. Pretty sure it's an M3 set screw. So you want to loosen that set screw, slide your blade down, just so it's resting on those pins. and then tighten your blade. Man, this is a really, I really like this hilt. I know I say that in every video. It's been a while since I've held a Corran, like a new Corran horn inspired hilt. So tighten your set screw and then you're ready to go. See you later. So, bunch of speeder bike inspired. Sorry. There are speeder bike inspired fonts on here, along with a bunch of other fonts.
The NASA team is ready for launch.
Sorry, that were provided. I put all of those on the SD card. The config is also backed up on the SD card. As far as your buttons go, right? So if you're looking at the hilt, there are two small brass tactile switches here. So if you're looking at the hilt, the switch on the left is your aux, the switch on the right is your main, okay? So if you want to change colors, it's the same key combination. If you want to change colors while the hilt is on, it's the same button combinations as that we're used to with Proffie. So you hold down aux and tap main. And then you twist as you see fit. And when you find a color, so loud, when you find a color you like, you just hit that aux button again. So yeah, very, very straightforward. This install was very smooth. Again, like when I've said this many times before, when there's a lot of room inside of a hilt to work with, it makes installing or designing a chassis so much better. I mean, because you've got plenty of room to add greeblies, you've got plenty of room for your wire management and your wire channels. So this was awesome. It was a very, very simple build, simple-ish. So yeah. Anyway, to the client, thank you very much for trusting me with this install. To the viewers, if anyone has any questions, please don't be a stranger. I always say it, and I think that's it. So with that being said, may the force be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.